It just gives people free rein to do whatever they want, as long as they believe in something. And obviously, they can never truly be good people, and they can truly never, get over this sense of guilt that they have if they didn't have a little loophole.
To be fair, the other forms that this takes are like, your child has died, and you're suffering from grief, and believing that kind of thing, that the child had a soul and the soul had gone on into a happier place and all that. I mean, that's harder to point fingers at and say, that they're just trying to get out from having to face up to their natural human impulses. I mean, that's more understandable. But now we're getting into the territory of hell and the us versus them mentality, and if you're not one of us, then you're an evil sinner automatically, no matter how you actually behave.
Yeah, and
that's a much longer call. Maybe we should.
Yeah, and actually we're going to move on after this, but I want to make the point that you have to be careful that we don't oversimplify the positions. First of all, Christianity isn't one thing. It's not any, despite having a unifying label, it's not even a collection of unifying doctrines within, for example, Protestants, lone Protestants, Catholics, etc. And there are, I think most Christians, and I would have at the time, would look at what you're saying and say that, there's this kind of, in addition to the loophole of the ultimate get out of jail free card, that applies at an ultimate level. It doesn't apply at the localized earth level. And there are plenty of verses and doctrines that encourage people to behave within Christianity, behave in a way that is conducive to a productive society. There are also some that aren't, as long as you've got a book that's going to advocate slavery and subjugation of women, etc. But the idea that you become completely free of your responsibility for the actions you take on earth is not any kind of clear tenet. Now, you may be dealing with this on another level, where the individuals develop this idea of, oh yes, I did this wrong, but God forgave me. So it develops this sort of lack of responsibility for actions. And as secularists, obviously, we don't have that. I understand that when I do something to somebody, I am responsible. There's nobody to, I need to, if anything, I need to get the forgiveness of the individual who I've wronged, and not some third party who may or may not exist. But you have to be careful when you start talking about Christianity as one thing, or even a particular doctrine as being universal. I'd be interested in the results of actual data, but not so much on the speculation as to whether or not I don't think this represents a significant portion of the Christian community. I think most people, despite being Christian, or despite being whatever religion might fit this particular doctrine, generally understand the nature of being a decent person, and that people are responsible for their actions. So I'd be a little cautious, but certainly there's some interesting stuff there to start investigating.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, guys.
Sure, it's your call. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.
We've got, is it Kevin in Corpus Christi?
Yeah, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm alright. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
That's good. I just have a quick question for you, and then I'm probably just going to get off.
Okay.
I just want to know if either of you, or both of you, whichever, are anti-theists, and if any of you think or are certain that gods don't exist.
Sure, I'm an anti-theist, and I'm not certain in the sense of absolute certainty that a God doesn't exist.
Okay. I'm an anti-theist as well, and I claim to be certain that gods don't exist. I can't really absolutely prove that they don't, but I just make that claim that I'm certain that they don't exist.
It depends very much on the definitions. Wow, that's an interesting speech. I'm as certain as I can be about a great many of them.
Yeah. Infinite progression being one of the things that I find to invalidate the possibility of gods.
Well, it potentially invalidates the possibility of some gods. That's the problem, is that there's as many different God hypotheses as there are people, almost.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jeff, your take?
I don't think I'd characterize myself as an anti-theist, because I can imagine, given free reign to make up whatever I want to think about, I can imagine a God who'd be a really awesome guy who would exist without demanding any worship and stuff. I am anti-theism.
Sure.
Right? I think no matter how nice of a God I can imagine, I would not worship it. I might appreciate it. I might say, hey, dude, thanks. But taken to the level of like meeting once a week for organized, bowing and scraping, I would be against that. And as for my certainty as to whether gods exist or not, again, like Matt said, it all depends on the definition. If I meet some South Seas Islander and he points to his totem pole and says, that's my God, then, I really don't have a lot of choice. I say, okay, your God exists. He's that hunk of wood over there. Then we get into questions about whether that hunk of wood has the magical powers that he attributes to it, but that's a separate question.
Yeah, I'm just mainly talking about like magical gods, magical entities that are supposedly outside space and time and don't need to be created by any separate process, things like that.
Sure, I'm kind of with Jeff. I think we're talking about the same thing, but quibbling a little bit over labels. In that, sure, I could probably imagine something that would qualify as God, which I'm perfectly happy with. I'm not opposed to the idea of God, just as I'm not opposed to the idea of an afterlife. But of the gods that have been presented and considered, I'm opposed to them as I use anti-theist in a way to mean that it goes a step beyond atheism, which is I don't believe in any gods. I believe, in fact, there are no gods, at least with regard to the ones that I've considered, etc. In what I would consider in any meaningful sense of the word, I don't see any likelihood that there are gods. I'm actually more anti-religionist or religion than anything. I'm opposed to worship just as a concept. I find it absolutely absurd that even if a God existed, that it would need, want, or expect worship. I mean, that's just absurd to me. And likewise with concepts of sin and other things. But all right, we're going to go ahead and try and get some more callers in. I appreciate it, Kevin.
All right, thanks for the reply.
Sure, thanks. We got Timothy in Mobile.
Hello.
How you doing, Timothy?
Hey, I just want to say first off, just right off the bat, I just started watching you a couple days ago. I've been watching back stuff on YouTube, and I think you'll have the patience of the saints for handling some of the apologetics that just continuously get thrown over and over and over again. I want to bang my head on my keyboard sometimes.
It's a good thing I'm not Catholic then, because I wouldn't be able to donate my organs, which is something I'm actually looking forward to. Well, I'm not looking forward to it. Like, let's go give this.
We're all looking forward to you donating your organs. I've had my eye on certain body parts of yours for quite some time. Wow, that sounded wrong.
All right, so Timothy has an issue.
Yes, Tim.
It's really weird. I've had this job. I worked at this cafeteria in town where I live for about 3.5 years.
Sure.
And there was this old woman that I used to work with, and we were really good friends. She knew I was an atheist, and she knew she was kind of a devout Christian. She wasn't married, but she had a boyfriend that she had lived with for a long time. And we were actually really good friends. We shared personal secrets. I would help her out with money. Sometimes she would help me out with stuff. Sometimes, we were friends, and we worked together. And her boyfriend died in a car accident. He had a heart attack and died about 6 months ago. And ever since that happened, she's become this kind of, I think this is just my supposition, but I just feel like she's become afraid of death. And she can't deal with it anymore. She used to be a really carefree person, but she's kind of lost this. There's something missing that's keeping her tied to reality. She's still there kind of mentally, but it's kind of hard to explain. But basically what it amounts to is she suddenly has this huge problem with me being not a Christian. And to the point where it started to interfere with my job, and actually ended up having to put in my 2 weeks notice and find another job. Because I tried to talk to my boss about it, and I figured my boss would be, she's my boss, she should know better. And one day this old woman had tried to convert me on the spot, and I kind of tried to shut it down because I'm like, we're at work, you know, let's not do this, you know, no place for that. And she kept coming at me, and I would try to walk out of the room, and she would follow me, and so I had brought it up to my boss, and she did the same thing to me.
Wow.
And she started, you know, well, how do you think the universe got here? You know, well, how do you say we came from monkeys and that sort of stuff? And I just finally said, all right, you know what, and I let it go. But I was asking a lot of people for advice though, and I went to a forum that I visit regularly for some band I like, and people were talking about how they would handle it, and they were basically giving me advice, which is pretty much what I was already doing, that I should keep it low and let her be the one that makes it about religion. You know, and just deal with my job and do my job so that they can't, because she was looking for things to say about me to cheapen my work, you know, my image at work and try to make me look bad. And so I figured, and that's what I did, and I left on good terms with that job. I was just kind of wondering, I mean, I don't really know what y'all do outside of this. I don't know much about y'all, but like, if you were in that position, how would you have handled that any differently, or is there anything you think maybe I should have done differently, or that I would, you know, if I were to encounter that in the future?
Did you have any trouble getting the new job?
No, so far it went really good. I went to an interview today.
Then I don't necessarily see what the problem is. You know, I mean, how a person should handle that situation depends on what, you know, who that person is and what their situation is. And sometimes, you know, you've got the freedom to make a quick jump like that to another place of work, and it all works out fine. And other times, you know, if you're trapped, you probably don't want to make a lot of waves. You know, see what I'm saying? I mean, yeah. If it worked out for you, then you probably did the right thing.
Yeah, there's depending on the situation, I mean, there's potential for a lawsuit, but I'm not lawsuit happy, and I'm not convinced that that's, you know, necessarily the best thing in most situations. I mean, I'm in a position in the tech industry, things are a little more volatile than others, and I've been unemployed a number of times over the past 10 years. And if I think my first steps, if somebody was overtly proselytizing at work, would be to talk to them about it, and, you know, say, hey, look, I'm just trying to focus on my job. I'm really not interested in this, and I don't think that the workplace is the place to bring it up. And if I do pretty much the same thing you did. The curious thing is that you're right. Your boss should actually know better, and you should have been able to get support from your employers in order, you know, for you to have a healthy, happy work environment. But absent that, sometimes just packing your bags and leaving and finding another job is unfortunately the best option. So yeah, that's about all I got.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, that's definitely reassuring. I'm kind of in the in-between stage right now. I've just been having some second thoughts because I really do enjoy this job that I had, and I really enjoyed a lot of the people that I worked with, and I met a lot of cool people through it. And I guess I'm kind of having a sort of buyer's remorse about my new job because I know it's the right thing to do. I mean, I know deep down that, you know, ever since I decided, look, I'm going to do this, I know that that's what I'm going to do. But at the same time, I keep kind of going, I'm kind of a punching bag like that. Like you were saying about the lawsuits and stuff, you know, a lot of my friends are telling me, oh, that you could sue people over that. And I'm just like, to me, I'm kind of trying to fight the angry, lawsuit, happy atheist stereotype because we don't have a lot of people out here that are open because we're in the deep south.
Sure.
And I just, actually, how it all started was I had gone to this convention with this guy, Henrik Mehta. He has a blog, Friendly Atheist.
Sure.
That,
yeah,
he was a book signing. I got to meet him and I was so excited. And I had gone to work and I wasn't even going to say anything about it. But this lady had asked me what I had done this weekend, and I kind of tried to dance around the atheist thing, and I eventually ended up bringing it up. I was like, oh, he's just this, you know, he's just an atheist guy that does this. And she's like, what's that? And she stuck on that word, and then that was the end of it, and she never ever got over it.
Yeah, and I don't dance around it, because having asked people at work, hey, what'd you do this weekend? They never seem the slightest bit worried about saying, oh, you know, I went to church and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I should be able to respond similarly. You know, okay, I did the TV show, or I went to this lecture, and then let's just kind of move on from there. Because when they say, oh, I went to church, I don't ever go, you went to church? Why would you do that? I mean, and yet the reaction that I get is completely different. It's kind of like, oh, you know, bring back off a little bit. I think by and large you did the right thing. I think there's another option too, is that if you really like the place where you work and you like a lot of people there, it'd be worth finding out how many other people there that you liked felt similarly and were disappointed that you're no longer working there, because getting a few people perhaps since your boss wasn't going to support you, getting a few other people of your coworkers to support you and say, look,